Germany's story is one of power, philosophy, tragedy, and triumph, a tale that stretches from the deep forests of ancient Europe to the heart of the modern European Union. To understand Germany is to understand the evolution of Europe itself. Long before the word Germany was ever spoken, these lands were home to scattered tribes known collectively as the Germanic peoples. They lived among rivers, forests, and mountains, forming loose societies with shared customs but no single ruler. In 9 CE, their leader, Arminius, famously ambushed and destroyed 3 Roman legions in the Teutoburg forest. This decisive victory halted Rome's expansion eastward and kept the lands beyond the Rhine free from Roman rule. For centuries afterward, these tribes remained independent, shaping a unique identity separate from the Latin world. Centuries later, as the Roman Empire faded and Europe entered the Middle Ages, a new empire emerged from these lands. In the year 800, Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, was crowned emperor of the Romans by the Pope. His vast empire would become the foundation for what we know as the Holy Roman Empire, a sprawling collection of duchies, bishoprics, and free cities that covered much of Central Europe. Though called Holy, Roman, and an empire, it was none of those things in the strict sense. It was a patchwork of independent states united loosely under an emperor who often wielded more prestige than power. For nearly 1,000 years, the Holy Roman Empire served as a stage for both magnificent culture and endless political intrigue. Cities like Nuremberg, Cologne, and Augsburg thrived, while regional powers such as Bavaria, Saxony, and especially Prussia began to rise in influence. Then came the 16th century, and with it, a storm that would forever change Europe. In 1517, a monk named Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg, challenging the authority and corruption of the Catholic Church. His words set in motion the Protestant Reformation, a movement that would divide not just faith but families, kingdoms, and nations. Germany became the heart of a religious conflict that raged for decades. The 30 Years' War, beginning in 1618, left the German lands devastated, its towns burned, and millions dead. When it finally ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, the Holy Roman Empire was weakened beyond repair, and the idea of state sovereignty, that each ruler could decide his realm's religion, became a cornerstone of modern international law. Out of this fractured landscape rose a new force, Prussia. Led by disciplined kings and brilliant generals like Frederick the Great, Prussia transformed into a military powerhouse. Its capital, Berlin, became a symbol of efficiency and ambition. During the 1800s, the winds of nationalism swept across Europe. The dream of a united Germany, long divided among hundreds of tiny states, began to take hold. The man who would finally achieve it was Otto von Bismarck, a master of diplomacy and power. Through calculated wars against Denmark, Austria, and France, Bismarck engineered the unification of Germany. In 1871, following victory over France, German princes gathered in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles to proclaim King Wilhelm I of Prussia as Emperor of a new, united Germany. The German Empire was born, powerful, industrial, and ready to take its place among the great powers of Europe. The years that followed were ones of breathtaking progress. Germany became a hub of science, philosophy, and innovation. Thinkers like Nietzsche and Einstein reshaped how humanity saw itself, while industrialists built railways, factories, and ships that made Germany the engine of Europe. But beneath the surface, rivalries simmered. Competition with Britain and France, combined with growing nationalism and military pride, pushed Europe toward catastrophe. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in 1914, Germany found itself at the center of a war that would engulf the world. The First World War brought immense suffering, and though German forces fought fiercely, by 1918 the nation was exhausted and defeated. The Treaty of Versailles that followed blamed Germany for the war, forced it to pay massive reparations, and stripped it of territory. The empire collapsed, and in its place arose the Weimar Republic, a fragile democracy struggling to survive amid chaos, inflation, and resentment. Out of that turmoil emerged one of history's darkest chapters. In 1933, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party seized power, promising to restore German pride and strength. What followed was a nightmare of dictatorship, persecution, and war. The Nazis built a totalitarian state, silenced dissent, and pursued a twisted ideology of racial purity. The Second World War, which began with Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939, consumed the world in fire. At first, the German army seemed unstoppable, conquering much of Europe. But by 1945, the country lay in ruins, its cities bombed to rubble, and its people broken. The Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were murdered, left a scar on human history that will never fade. When the war ended, Germany was divided, east under Soviet control, west under the Allies, and the once proud nation faced a long road to redemption. In the decades that followed, two Germanys emerged, the capitalist, Democratic Federal Republic of Germany in the west, and the Communist German Democratic Republic in the east. The Berlin Wall, built in 1961, became the stark symbol of this division, a wall not just of concrete, but of ideology. Families were torn apart, and an entire generation grew up under the shadow of the Cold War. Yet even in division, the German spirit of innovation and resilience endured. The West rebuilt rapidly, becoming an economic powerhouse, while in the East, a growing desire for freedom refused to die. In 1989, the world watched as the Berlin Wall fell, a moment of joy, tears, and unity. Within a year, Germany was whole again. The reunified nation began the difficult process of healing old wounds, balancing East and West, memory and progress. Since then, Germany has become one of the world's leading democracies, a pillar of the European Union, a voice of stability, and a nation deeply aware of its past. Today, Germany stands not as an empire or a divided land, but as a unified republic committed to peace, democracy, and human dignity. Its history is both a warning and a lesson, that even through centuries of conflict and tragedy, a nation can learn, rebuild, and redefine itself. The story of Germany is the story of Europe, of how from chaos, culture can rise, from division, unity can emerge, and from history, humanity can learn to move forward.